Those who drink 1 bottle a day are said to have a 21% higher risk of diabetes compared to those who don't drink at all. Whew, this is dangerous. Hello, I'm Dr. Mandarin. As a doctor, I want to introduce a surprising drink you should never consume, supported by data. Please watch until the end. Let's begin. Today I'm going to talk about a surprising drink. Drinking this beverage can increase your risk of diabetes, clogging the blood vessels in your heart, which can be life-threatening, and also lead to obesity, or what's known as metabolic syndrome. Oops, I stumbled there. I'm introducing a drink that raises the risk of obesity and metabolic syndrome. I usually work as a doctor at a hospital, handling outpatient care, inpatient wards, home visits, and procedures like endoscopy. Especially in outpatient settings, people often say, Dr. Mandarin. Well, they don't actually call me Mandarin, but they often tell me, I understand what kinds of things I should be eating. But I often get asked, are there things I shouldn't eat or drink? Are there things I shouldn't be consuming? I think that's a really good question, and surprisingly, this drink can actually be dangerous, but not everyone realizes it. So this time, I'd like to go over this while showing some data. The content might get a bit difficult, so please take notes or listen to it several times as you go along. Alright, let's get started. And on this channel, I want to share useful health information in a fun way while also showing data, so I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel. Let me start with the conclusion about what you shouldn't drink, and I'll explain it by drawing a picture I'm good at. Here it is. Something like this with a lid on top. Drinks like this are honestly really dangerous, I think. Yes, you probably already know what I'm talking about. You shouldn't drink this. If I just said, see you, I don't think anyone would understand, but what I'm introducing today is fruit juice. I think that's probably surprising. Actually, I drink it every day myself. I drink it for enjoyment. You know those juice-like drinks, right? I especially love fruit juice, and mandarin orange juice in particular is my favorite. Actually, if you drink too much of this, it can increase your risk of diabetes or cause weight gain, so I'll explain these studies and papers about that in detail. So, the papers and guidelines I referred to this time are based on the dietary guidelines published in the United States from 2015 to 2020. It contains very detailed data, so even though it's in English, I recommend reading it because you can learn a lot. Now, I'll briefly list the risks associated with fruit juice here. Here they are. The first one is coronary artery disease. If that term makes you tune out, please just listen to this one thing. It's simple. These are the blood vessels that supply nutrients to the heart. The heart has blood vessels, and that's how it functions. When these vessels that supply nutrients get clogged, the heart has a harder time working, and in the worst case, it can be life-threatening. There is data showing that this risk increases. Besides that, here are some others: diabetes, high blood pressure, and metabolic syndrome. Please remember these as the 3 blood vessel wreckers. Diabetes, for example, is a disease where when we eat food, the sugar from it flows into our bloodstream. And with the hormone called insulin, which is released from the pancreas, we absorb the sugar as energy we need in our daily lives through the action of insulin. But for people with diabetes, insulin doesn't work well or isn't produced enough, so the food they eat just floats around in the blood as sugar, and their bodies can't use it properly. That's why sugar builds up in the blood, causing diabetes. As it rises, excess sugar is excreted in urine, which is what diabetes is. Let's remember that as the amount of sugar in the blood increases, the blood vessels gradually become more and more damaged. And as for high blood pressure, actually, we don't really know exactly why the risk to blood vessels increases. High blood pressure is so common, but in fact we still don't fully understand it. As the pressure inside the blood vessels rises, it puts stress on them, makes fatty plaques more likely to rupture, and is also said to make the blood vessels themselves stiffen. And then there's metabolic syndrome. As your weight rises, cholesterol goes up too, leading to fat buildup in blood vessels. Drinking fruit juice also raises the risk of these 3 major blood vessel issues. It's pretty scary, isn't it? I guess I need to reconsider whether I should keep drinking fruit juice too. I'll show you one more piece of data. The New England Journal, I can't pronounce it properly. There's a famous journal called the New England Journal of Medicine, and this is a prospective study from that journal. According to it, people who drink 1 bottle of fruit juice a day compared to those who don't have this risk for diabetes. It's said that the risk increased by 21%. There's data showing that the risk of developing diabetes increased by as much as 21%. It's just one piece of data, so we can't say everything based on this alone, but it does show that the risk of diabetes seems to increase. But, does that mean fruit isn't good for you? Basically, fruit is considered good for you, right? People often say we should eat fruits and vegetables, right? I'll explain from a doctor's perspective why fruit juice isn't healthy. On this channel, we don't just say, don't eat this because a doctor said so, but explain the reasons behind it. If you know why you shouldn't eat these things, you can use that knowledge for other foods and drinks too, so I want you to learn to think for yourself. Instead of just giving you fish, I want to teach you how to fish. That's the kind of channel I want this to be. So please subscribe to the channel. I know this is the second time I'm saying it, but thank you for your support. So why is fruit juice not good? First of all, let's talk about whether fruit itself is good or not. I'll show you some data on this. There is data comparing people who ate fruit and those who didn't, and it shows that people who ate things like blueberries, apples, and prunes had a lower risk of diabetes compared to those who didn't eat them. Specifically, it refers to people who eat about 2 plates of fruit. So there is data showing that eating fruit itself is associated with a lower risk of diabetes. So let's think about why juice isn't good. Let's consider what gets lost in the process of making juice. 2 things should come to mind, and here's the first one. It's vitamins. These kinds of nutrients decrease during the processing stage, so the vitamins that make fruit beneficial in the first place are lost. That's the downside of fruit juice. And here's the other one. Yes, it's dietary fiber. It's not that I can't write the kanji. Dietary fiber is also lost, you know? Fruit is technically a type of vegetable and contains a lot of fiber, but juicing removes the fiber, so you lose many of the health benefits of eating whole fruit. So if you think about it in a broader sense, for example, imagine meat juice or fish juice, right? It sounds gross, but in that case too, important vitamins and such are lost during the juicing process. In other words, when things are processed, meat or fish, you might end up not getting the benefits you would normally get from eating meat or fish directly. Whenever you process something, you end up losing important nutrients, so I hope you'll try to value the original ingredients as much as possible and keep them in mind when planning your daily meals. Here's a quick side note I've mentioned before. Fish oil is considered healthy, but people are specifically referring to oil that comes from fish. Fish oil supplements have become pretty widespread, but if you look closely at the research, there's plenty of data showing that eating fish can lower cholesterol. However, it's not really clear whether taking fish oil supplements actually lowers cholesterol. Also, data shows you need to take several fish oil pills daily for effective supplementation. So in the end, there's really no convenient shortcut. I think it's important to focus on eating whole foods properly if you want to stay healthy. So, what did you think? This time I talked about how, according to American guidelines and some research papers, fruit juice can actually be a surprisingly risky drink. Also, something that happened in my clinic. There was a patient who said, "Doctor, I saw on TV that fruit is good for high blood pressure, so I've been eating a lot of fruit." But actually, that person's kidney function was declining, and fruit contains potassium, which is abundant in fruit, raising their potassium levels. People with certain illnesses need specific dietary therapies, so please consult your regular doctor about these topics and don't rely solely on this video. Also, you don't need to stop drinking fruit juice and eat only fruit. For those with kidney problems or other concerns, there are important points to watch out for, so please consult with your doctor as you plan your meals. See you next time.